Mr. Shapiro serves as the embodiment of everything that is fundamentally flawed within conservative America, asserted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as she stood firmly at her podium upon the CNN town hall stage, her voice resonating with that rehearsed intonation that performs so exceptionally well on Instagram platforms. Adorned in a designer blazer, accentuated by statement jewelry, and with hair and makeup that appeared entirely camera-ready, she looked every bit the social media luminary, playing the role of a congresswoman. "He sits comfortably within his privilege," she continued, gesturing with dramatic flair, accusing him of attacking working-class individuals while defending billionaires and disseminating falsehoods regarding democratic socialism. "Tonight, I intend to expose his hypocrisy for everyone to witness," she declared, causing the progressive section of the Atlanta auditorium to erupt in enthusiastic applause. 500 individuals had packed into the venue, with half of them sporting squad merchandise, while the other half appeared visibly skeptical. CNN had billed this event as a discussion on political hypocrisy in Washington, a town hall conversation that AOC had personally requested as the topic. She had confidentially told her staff that this would be her defining moment, the night she would finally dismantle Ben Shapiro on national television. Jake Tapper sat positioned between them, appearing like a man who sensed this might not unfold the way CNN had anticipated. Ben Shapiro sat with composed tranquility at his podium, dressed in a charcoal suit and blue tie, displaying that subtle, knowing smile that tends to appear when he anticipates that an opponent is on the verge of committing a significant strategic error. He had brought with him a folder, thick and meticulously organized with tabs, the sort that attorneys bring to sworn depositions. AOC was still speaking, asserting that conservative pundits like Mr. Shapiro generate millions by spreading fear and division, while working families struggle merely to survive, while children go hungry, and while health care costs bankrupt the middle class. He defends the status quo, she argued, claiming he defends inequality and greed. And as the applause grew louder, she seemed to feed off the energy, becoming more animated. "Well, I am here to tell the American people the truth, to expose the real hypocrisy, to demonstrate who is genuinely on the side of working families, and who is merely another wealthy conservative protecting the affluent," she concluded as she sat down triumphantly. The progressive half of the room rose to their feet, chanting her name, AOC, AOC, while Tapper attempted to restore order, suggesting they give Mr. Shapiro a chance to respond. "Before we begin," Shapiro interrupted, his voice calm but cutting through the noise like a precise knife, with every word deliberate, "I want to thank Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez for suggesting this topic of political hypocrisy. It is an excellent choice because we are going to explore it in great detail." He opened his folder, starting directly with her record, causing the room to fall quiet. "Let us discuss the Met Gala, Congresswoman," Shapiro proposed, and AOC's face changed for just a fraction of a second, that confident smile flickering as she realized everyone was about to know the truth. "It was a fascinating opening, Congresswoman," Shapiro remarked, noting that slight smile still in place, acknowledging it was very passionate and emotional, but suggesting they now discuss facts and her specific hypocrisy. He retrieved the first document from his folder as the audience leaned forward in anticipation. September 2021, the Met Gala, the most exclusive event in America where tickets cost $35,000, attended by billionaire celebrities, the ultra-wealthy elite, the 1%, and the 0.001%, the very people you claim to oppose. AOC attempted to interject that she was making a statement, but Shapiro continued with rapid-fire delivery, refusing to let her derail the point. "And there you were, in your custom designer gown, with a message painted in red across the back, reading, tax the rich. Do you recall that, Congresswoman? Of course, I do, she replied. But Shapiro leaned forward to highlight the irony of attending a $35,000 party surrounded by billionaires while wearing a designer gown to preach about inequality. AOC's voice rose, hitting that high pitch often seen in her clips, insisting she was puncturing the fourth wall of excess and bringing the message directly to the elite. You were freeloading off the rich while pretending to fight them, Shapiro countered as he pulled out another document. Let me ask you directly, Congresswoman, did you pay for that ticket? The room held its breath during the pause. The museum invited me as an elected official, she began, but Shapiro cut in, stating that was not what he asked, demanding a yes or no regarding whether she paid for the ticket. Her jaw tightened as she explained that as a New York elected official, she was a guest. So Shapiro looked at the audience and concluded that meant no. She did not pay the $35,000, she received it for free. He pulled out a thicker document with an official-looking government seal, identifying it as the House Ethics Committee report released in July 2025. Let me read the findings, he said, adjusting his glasses, quoting that Representative Ocasio-Cortez violated House rules by failing to pay the full market value for her attire, accessories, and services, and by improperly accepting free attendance for herself and a guest. Gasps emanated from the audience, with several people retrieving their phones to verify the information. It is all real, Shapiro assured them, but it gets even better, noting that the report details exactly what she received for free: a custom designer gown, professional styling, hair and makeup services, designer accessories, plus a complimentary ticket for her then-boyfriend. The total value, he stated looking directly at her, was over $35,000 in gifts from the rich while wearing a dress that said, "Tax the rich." Someone in the audience laughed, a sound of shocked disbelief. AOC tried to recover, claiming she paid for everything eventually. Eventually, Shapiro pounced. Yes, you did, eventually. After the ethics investigation started, after journalists began asking questions, and after the designers and stylists you failed to pay had to chase you for payment for years. Some of them are working-class people, hairstylists, and makeup artists. People who work for a living, he emphasized as he pulled out another document. This is an invoice from one of your stylists, dated October 2021, 1 month after the gala, showing an amount due of $3,000. When did you pay it, Congresswoman? Silence filled the room. According to the ethics report, you paid it in March 2023, 18 months later. You failed to pay a working-class stylist for 18 months while living in a luxury apartment and driving a Tesla. The progressive side of the room had gone quiet, some looking at their phones, others just staring. But here is my favorite part. Shapiro's voice dropped slightly, becoming more dangerous. This is an email from your attorney dated September 12th, 2021, 1 day before the Met Gala. He began to read the quote, stating that given the value of the items and services, the attorney strongly advised against attending without full payment, as this could constitute accepting an illegal gift under House rules and federal law. He looked up, emphasizing that her lawyer explicitly warned her not to go as it would violate ethics rules, and she went anyway. The silence was deafening, broken only by a cough and a creaking chair. Shapiro let the silence hang there for 10 or 15 seconds, not rushing to fill the space, allowing the weight of the revelation to settle over the room. Finally, he stated, "So let us be very clear about what happened here. You attended a party you could not afford, accepted $35,000 in gifts from wealthy people, wore a dress saying, 'Tax the rich,' while being subsidized by the rich, ignored your lawyer's advice, violated House ethics rules, failed to pay working-class service providers for years, and only paid when you got caught. He closed that section of his folder. Congresswoman, you talked about hypocrisy, about who is really on the side of working families. So let me ask, when working-class Americans go to a nice restaurant, they pay the bill. When they buy clothes, they pay for them. You make $174,000 a year. Why didn't you pay for your luxury experience? AOC's hands were shaking slightly as she reached for her water glass, her voice coming out quieter than before, and defensive, claiming that was taken out of context and the whole situation was complicated. Context! Shapiro's voice went rapid fire again. The context is, you broke the rules. The House Ethics Committee says so in writing, with published findings that you violated federal law by accepting impermissible gifts. The context is, you had to pay an additional $3,000 in penalties because the committee found you still hadn't paid full market value even after you finally got around to paying. He leaned back, that smile returning, asking if she wanted to talk about the rich not paying their fair share when she didn't pay her fair share for years until she got caught, yet she has the audacity to lecture plumbers and teachers about their obligations to society. AOC opened her mouth and closed it, finding no words. We are just getting started, Shapiro said pleasantly, because this luxury lifestyle she is living while preaching about workers needs to be discussed next. But first, let us let that sink in, he said, gesturing to Jake Tapper, telling the Congresswoman to take her time, as he knew she was not used to being asked follow-up questions. The audience erupted, half applauding and half gasping, with the progressive section looking shell-shocked as their champion appeared to be faltering. Round one hadn't even lasted 10 minutes, and Shapiro still possessed a full folder. After the brief break, AOC returned, looking slightly recovered, having touched up her makeup and spoken to her staffers, trying to project confidence, but her hands were still fidgeting with her notes. Shapiro hadn't moved, having just reorganized his folder to pull the next section to the top. Now, I know what people are thinking, he began in a conversational tone that was almost friendly. Perhaps she just couldn't afford the Met Gala. Maybe she is actually struggling financially and living paycheck to paycheck, like she claims to understand. Let us examine that hypothesis, he suggested, pulling out what looked like a real estate brochure. Congresswoman, where do you live in Washington? AOC's voice was careful now, guarded, stating she has an apartment near Capitol Hill. Near Capitol Hill is one way to describe the Navy Yard luxury complex, Shapiro countered, holding up the brochure with color photos visible even from the audience. Let me describe it another way. Let us look at your building's amenities, shall we? He started reading casually, like he was browsing a vacation resort website. Rooftop infinity pool with panoramic views of the Capitol, PGA-rated golf simulator, private massage rooms, state-of-the-art hydrotherapy beds, saunas, a 25-meter indoor lap pool, a Peloton cycling studio, a full-service spa, a private tennis court, a fireside lounge featuring a Steinway & Sons player piano, and his personal favorite, a full-scale kitchen with a wood-fired pizza oven. He looked up at AOC, stating this is where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, champion of the working class and democratic socialist fighter for economic justice, lives. He pulled out another sheet, noting that rent for a studio apartment in this building starts at $1,800 per month. One-bedroom apartments range from $2,000 to $3,000, and two-bedroom units from $3,000 to $5,000 per month. AOC tried to interrupt, claiming housing in D.C. is expensive for everyone. For everyone. Yes, that is exactly the point. Shapiro's voice went sharp. But you chose one of the most expensive buildings in Washington, D.C. There are studio apartments in D.C. for $800 a month, in perfectly safe neighborhoods that are metro accessible. Yet you chose the building with the golf simulator and the Steinway piano. He pulled out his phone and started reading from it, citing her own campaign in 2018, where she stated, "We need to kick luxury real estate lobbyists to the curb and defend working people's way of life," claiming the skyrocketing cost of living is a crisis, and luxury apartments are destroying neighborhoods and pushing out working families. He paused to let it register. You campaigned against luxury apartments, then you moved into one of the most luxurious apartment buildings in Washington. Do you see the pattern forming here? AOC's voice rose defensively, asserting she is allowed to live somewhere nice. Of course you are, Shapiro agreed readily, stating he has no problem with nice apartments, but he has a problem with hypocrisy, with attacking luxury housing while living in luxury housing, with preaching about inequality from a rooftop infinity pool. He wasn't done yet. Let us talk about how you get to this luxury apartment. What do you drive, Congresswoman? Silence followed, as AOC knew where this was going. You drive a Tesla Model 3 long range, a $60,000 beautiful car. I am not against nice cars. But let us talk about your history with Tesla. He pulled out a transcript on official congressional letterhead from a climate change town hall in 2018, where she said, "For far too long we gave money to Tesla, we gave money to a ton of people, and we got no return on our investment. It is about time we get our due, because it is the public that funded and financed a lot of innovative technologies." He looked at the audience, pointing out she attacked Tesla for receiving government assistance, called it corporate welfare, and said taxpayers got no return on investment in 2018. Then, in 2020, she bought a Tesla. Laughter erupted from the conservative side, and even some progressives were shaking their heads. "And here is my favorite detail," Shapiro said, pulling out photos from May 14, 2021, where the Washington Free Beacon photographed her white Tesla with New York license plates and a congressional parking pass on the dashboard. Do you know where it was? He held up the photo showing it illegally parked outside Whole Foods. The Whole Foods that is walking distance from her luxury apartment, the same Whole Foods that offers free parking for customers. You couldn't even park legally at the store where you were shopping. AOC tried to speak, mentioning Whole Foods, but Shapiro rolled right over her. Whole Foods, owned by Amazon, founded by Jeff Bezos, the man you have spent years attacking, the billionaire you have demonized more than almost anyone, the company whose headquarters you personally destroyed in Queens. He leaned forward to talk about Amazon HQ2, which would have brought 25,000 jobs. Good jobs with an average salary of $150,000 a year, to her district in Queens, but she killed it. His voice went cold now. You led the opposition, claiming Amazon was getting too many tax breaks. So let us examine those tax breaks, because I did the math. He pulled out a spreadsheet explaining that Amazon was going to receive $3 billion in tax incentives over 20 years. It sounds like a lot, but here is what she conveniently didn't mention. Those were tax breaks on future taxes on profits Amazon would make in New York. Money that wouldn't exist without Amazon coming there. He started breaking it down with fast numbers flying, explaining the deal meant New York would collect $27 billion in tax revenue over 20 years. The $3 billion in incentives was a discount on that $27 billion in new money. He looked directly at AOC, stating that is a 12-to-1 return. For every dollar of tax break, New York would receive $12 in new tax revenue. Any business person would take that deal immediately, and any economist would recommend it. It was one of the best deals any city has ever been offered. His voice rose slightly. But you killed it, claiming the tax breaks were corporate welfare and that New York was subsidizing Amazon. That is not how tax breaks work. But you don't understand economics, do you, Congresswoman? AOC was turning red, calling it insulting. What is insulting, Shapiro cut her off, is that 70% of New Yorkers supported Amazon HQ too. 70% of your own constituents, the people you claim to represent, wanted those jobs and that economic development. But you didn't care. You cared about your activist reputation more than their livelihoods. He pulled out another document, listing 25,000 people who would have gotten jobs gone. Small businesses that would have thrived. Servicing Amazon employees never happening. Restaurants, shops, services, and construction jobs, all that economic activity killed by you. He paused to let the weight settle. And then, this is the best part. You shop at Whole Foods owned by Amazon. You destroyed Amazon jobs in your district, cost 25,000 people their opportunities. Then, you give Amazon your money at Whole Foods. He shook his head, noting she didn't hurt Jeff Bezos, who is still worth over $200 billion. She hurt working people. She hurt her own constituents. She hurt small business owners. He leaned back, asking for what? So she could score points with Twitter activists? So she could look tough against big corporations? You sacrificed real people for your image. His voice went quiet and dangerous. Congresswoman, you make $174,000 a year, which is in the top 6% of American earners. You live in a building where even studios cost $1,800 a month. You drive a car that costs more than the average American makes in a year. You shop at stores nicknamed Whole Paycheck because they are so expensive. He stood slightly, the room dead silent. And you have the audacity to call yourself a socialist, to claim you understand working-class struggle, to lecture Americans about inequality while you live in luxury they can't even imagine, while you enjoy amenities like golf simulators, infinity pools, and spa services that working families will never experience. AOC's voice cracked when she tried to respond that she came from a working-class background 20 years ago. Shapiro's voice was sharp and final. Now you are part of the elite you claim to oppose, the 1% you claim to fight. The only difference between you and the billionaires you attack is that you are a hypocrite about it. The break felt heavier this time. AOC's staffers were in full crisis mode, phones out frantically typing. The progressive side of the audience looked deflated, and some had left during the break, leaving empty seats visible. Now Shapiro was calmly organizing his next section, looking almost relaxed, like a professor preparing for the next part of a lecture he had given 100 times. But maybe I am being unfair, he said when they resumed, his voice thoughtful now, almost sympathetic. Maybe you help your family with all that money. Maybe that is why you can't afford to pay for Met Gala tickets or live in a more modest apartment. Let us talk about your family, Congresswoman. AOC's eyes widened slightly. She knew what was coming. June 2nd, 2021. Shapiro pulled out printouts of social media posts. You posted photos on Instagram of your grandmother's house in Puerto Rico. Let me describe what you showed the world. He held up the photos so the audience could see them on the monitors. Ceiling partially collapsed, water damage throughout, structural damage visible, mold on the walls, unlivable conditions. This is where your grandmother was living. And you wrote, "Let me get this exact." He read from the printout. It's been 4 years, and Trump and his administration's neglect is evident. He looked up. 4 years after Hurricane Maria, your grandmother was still living in these conditions, and you blamed Trump. He set the photos down carefully. The photos went viral with millions of views. CNN covered it, MSNBC covered it. Every progressive media outlet shared your story about your grandmother's suffering, Trump's failure, and poor Puerto Rico abandoned by the federal government. He paused, and then people started asking a very simple question. His voice went softer, more dangerous. If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez makes $174,000 a year, why doesn't she help her grandmother? AOC shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Shapiro pulled out an actual physical calculator and held it up. Let us do the math together. A new roof in Puerto Rico costs about $8,000. A complete home renovation may be $30,000 to $40,000 total. He started punching numbers. You make $174,000 per year. After federal taxes, that is about $115,000. Your luxury apartment costs, let's say, $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. Your Tesla payment is about $500 a month, $6,000 a year. Food, utilities, insurance. Let's be generous and say $20,000 a year. He looked at the total. That is $62,000 in annual expenses, leaving you with $53,000 in disposable income every year. He set the calculator down. Your grandmother's house could have been fixed for $40,000. You could have paid for it in 1 year easily. You have been in Congress since 2019. That is 6 years. Over $300,000 in disposable income. Silence. Heavy silence. But you didn't fix it. For 4 years, your grandmother lived in those conditions, and you used her suffering for political points. AOC tried to speak, claiming her grandmother didn't want charity. Don't! Shapiro's voice went sharp. Don't insult everyone's intelligence. Your grandmother was living with a collapsed ceiling, with mold, with water damage, and you are telling me she refused help from her granddaughter who makes 6 figures? He pulled out more printouts. When people called you out, your response was, "Fascinating." You tweeted, and I quote, "You don't even have a concept for the role that first-gen firstborn daughters play in their families." He looked at the audience and spread his hands. That is not an answer. That is deflection. The question wasn't about family roles or cultural traditions. The question was very simple. Why is your grandmother living in a damaged house while you live in a luxury apartment with a golf simulator? AOC's voice came out defensive, insisting her grandmother is fine now and doesn't want charity. She is fine now, Shapiro interrupted. You know why? Because after your stunt, conservative commentator Matt Walsh raised money to help her. Private citizens, conservatives, people you call heartless and cruel, they fixed your grandmother's house. He let that hang there. Let that sink in. Conservatives, people you have spent years demonizing, attacking, and calling evil. The socialist who cares so much about family and community and mutual aid did nothing but post on Instagram. Someone in the audience said, "Damn," loud enough to be heard. Shapiro wasn't done. You used your grandmother's suffering to attack Trump, to score political points, to get sympathetic press coverage. You posted those photos not to help her, but to make yourself look like a victim of Republican cruelty. His voice went cold. That is not compassion. That is exploitation. You exploited your own grandmother's suffering for your political brand while doing nothing to actually solve the problem. He pulled out his phone and started reading. This is what you could have done with that disposable income. Fixed your grandmother's house for $40,000 and still have $278,000 left over 6 years. You could have helped dozens of families in Puerto Rico. You could have actually made a difference. He looked up at her. But you didn't, because you care more about appearing compassionate than actually being compassionate. You care more about your image as a fighter for working families than actually helping your own working-class family. AOC's eyes were watering now, her voice barely audible, saying, "That is not fair." "What is not fair," Shapiro said with his voice rising now, "is a grandmother living in a house with a collapsed ceiling while her granddaughter parties at the Met Gala. What is not fair is using family suffering for political gain while refusing to help. What is not fair is calling yourself a democratic socialist while abandoning your own family to poverty." He closed that section of his folder. This is your hypocrisy in a nutshell, Congresswoman. You care more about looking good than doing good. You care more about your brand than your grandmother. You care more about going viral on social media than actually helping the people you claim to fight for. The progressive side of the room was almost completely silent now. Some were crying, and many were just staring at their phones, avoiding eye contact. The conservative side was stone-faced, with no cheering or applause, just disgust. "Shall we continue?" Shapiro asked. "Because we still need to talk about those jobs you killed?" AOC looked broken already, but Shapiro had promised to talk about hypocrisy, and he had more to say. "Let us talk about your record on jobs," he began, his voice businesslike now and professional. "You love to talk about how you fight for working people, how you champion economic justice, how you want good-paying jobs for American families. Let us examine your actual track record." He pulled out a thick, official-looking document. November 2018, Amazon announces HQ2 will be split between Arlington, Virginia, and Long Island City. Queens, your district, Congresswoman, 25,000 jobs. Not minimum wage jobs, but good, professional jobs, with an average salary of $150,000 per year. He started reading from the document. Total direct wages over 20 years of $3.7 billion. Total economic impact, including indirect jobs, tax revenue, and local business growth of $40 billion for Queens, for your constituents. He looked up. The working people in your district were celebrating, finally seeing real opportunity, career-level jobs, economic investment, the kind of development that transforms communities. And then you decided to kill it. AOC's voice came out defensive immediately, repeating that Amazon was getting $3 billion in corporate welfare. "We have been over this." Shapiro cut her off. "Those weren't payments to Amazon. Those were tax breaks on future taxes on money Amazon would make in New York. Money that wouldn't exist without Amazon being there. The net benefit to New York was $27 billion. But you killed it anyway." He pulled out another document. "And here is what kills me about this. Polling data from November 2018 showed New Yorkers supported Amazon HQ2 by 70%. 70% of your own constituents, the people you represent, wanted those jobs." He started reading quotes from the poll. "This could change my family's life. My son could get a job here instead of moving to California. Small businesses in the area were already planning to expand." These are real quotes from real people in Queens. His voice went harder. "But you didn't care what they wanted? You cared about your activist base, your Twitter followers, your progressive celebrity status? So you led the opposition, called press conferences, held protests, and gave speeches about corporate greed." He pulled out footage transcripts quoting her. "Amazon is a billion-dollar company. The idea that it will receive hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks at a time when our subway is crumbling and our communities need more investment, not less, is extremely concerning." End quote. He looked at her. The tax breaks were conditional on Amazon creating the jobs. No jobs, no breaks. And the infrastructure investment you complained about, Amazon was going to contribute to that too. But you knew that. Your staff knew that. You just chose to lie about it because the truth didn't fit your narrative. AOC tried to interrupt, claiming she was fighting for her community. "You were fighting for yourself." Shapiro's voice went sharp. "Your community wanted those jobs. Let me introduce you to some of them." He pulled out more documents, these ones having photos attached. Maria Santos, 37 years old, single mother, 2 kids, working 2 jobs, applied for a project manager position at Amazon HQ2, salary $90,000 a year, which would have been life-changing for her family. He held up her photo. She didn't get that job because you killed it. He pulled out another photo. James Chen owns a restaurant in Long Island City, near where HQ2 would have been built. Expanded his restaurant in anticipation of the Amazon employees. Took out a loan, hired 6 new staff members, bought new equipment. Pause. Then you killed the deal. He had to lay everyone off, nearly lost his business, and the loan nearly bankrupted him. He held up the photo to let the audience see. David Rodriguez, 32, lives in Astoria, construction worker. His company had contracts lined up for Amazon construction, which would have been 5 years of steady work with union wages, benefits, and security for his family. Another pause. You killed that too. Shapiro's voice went quiet now, more intense. 25,000 people. Not abstract statistics, but real people with names, with families, with hopes. They would have gotten jobs because of Amazon. And you took that from them. He pulled out more photos and spread them on his desk. Teachers who would have had better funded schools from increased tax revenue, small business owners who would have thrived, construction workers, service workers, all the indirect jobs that come with major economic development. He looked at AOC. Estimates said Amazon HQ2 would create over 100,000 total jobs when you include indirect employment. All gone because of you. His voice rose. And for what? What did your constituents get instead? Nothing. They got you on Twitter, celebrating your victory against corporate greed. They got you giving speeches at progressive conferences about how you stopped Amazon. They got you building your national profile. He leaned forward. They didn't get jobs. They didn't get economic development. They didn't get opportunity. They got you, and you gave them nothing but rhetoric. AOC was crying now, actually crying, with mascara running slightly, but Shapiro wasn't stopping. And then, this is the part that makes me angry. You shop at Whole Foods. You give money to Amazon, the company you destroyed in your district. You personally benefit from Amazon's convenience. You use Amazon services. You just didn't want your constituents to have Amazon jobs. He pulled out one final document. This is a petition started by Maria Santos, the woman who lost her chance at the project manager job. It is called Recall AOC. Do you know how many signatures it got in the first week? He held it up. 50,000. From your own district. The people you claim to represent want you gone. He set it down. You didn't hurt Jeff Bezos. You didn't hurt Amazon. You hurt Maria Santos. You hurt James Chen. You hurt David Rodriguez. You hurt 50,000 families who wanted a better future. His voice went cold. That is not leadership, Congresswoman. That is narcissism. You sacrificed real people for your image. You destroyed 25,000 jobs so you could trend on Twitter. He closed the folder section. That is not fighting for the working class. That is using the working class as props for your political career. The silence in the room was crushing. Even Jake Tapper looked stunned. AOC couldn't speak, just sitting there crying. Destroyed. We are not done, Shapiro said quietly. We still need to talk about your student loans. The break this time felt like a funeral. AOC didn't leave the stage. Just sat there, as her staffers brought her tissues and water and tried to talk to her. But she wasn't really responding, just staring at nothing. Half the progressive side of the audience was gone now, and the remaining half looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. Shapiro returned refreshed, like he had been saving the best for last. Let us talk about something you campaign on constantly, he began. Student loan forgiveness. You want taxpayers to cancel student loan debt, all of it. Free college for everyone, with no consequences for the choices people made. He pulled out campaign materials. You have said publicly many times that you still have student loan debt, $17,000 from Boston University, where tuition is $58,000 a year. and you claim you can't afford to pay it off. He let that hang there. You want taxpayers to pay your debt. Let us talk about who those taxpayers are. He started listing them. Plumbers, who make $40,000 a year and never went to college, yet you want them to pay your debt. Single mothers, working 2 jobs to feed their kids, yet you want them to pay your debt. Veterans who served their country, many who paid for college with the GI Bill, you want them to pay your debt too. His voice rose. And here is the thing that makes me absolutely furious about this. You can afford to pay it easily. Let us do the math again. He pulled out that calculator. $174,000 annual salary. After taxes, $115,000. We went over your expenses before. Apartment, car, food, utilities. Let's say $62,000 total annually. He punched the numbers. That leaves $53,000 in disposable income every year. Your student loan debt is $17,000. He looked directly at her. You could pay it off in 4 months. 4 months of your first year in Congress, and you would be debt-free. But you have been in Congress for 6 years now. He did the calculation. 6 years times $53,000 in disposable income is $318,000. You have had $318,000 in disposable income since entering Congress. He set the calculator down hard. Your debt is $17,000. You could have paid it 318 times over, but you didn't. Want to know why? He leaned forward. Because you are waiting for taxpayers to pay it for you. You are living in luxury with golf simulators, Teslas, and Met Galas while waiting for working-class Americans who make a fraction of what you make to bail you out. AOC tried weakly to argue that student debt is a crisis affecting millions. It is affecting millions because people made choices about which colleges to attend and what to study without considering the cost-benefit analysis. Shapiro's voice went rapid-fire, but that is a different discussion. We are talking about your debt, your choices, your hypocrisy. He pulled out comparison documents. Let me paint you a picture. Michael Johnson, plumber in Cincinnati, makes $42,000 a year, has a wife and 2 kids, never went to college, learned his trade through apprenticeship, works hard, pays his taxes. He held up Michael's photo. You want Michael to pay your $17,000 debt while you are living in a luxury apartment he couldn't afford in his wildest dreams, while you are driving a car that costs more than his annual salary, while you are enjoying amenities he will never experience. Another photo. Lisa Martinez, single mother in Phoenix, works 2 jobs, makes $38,000 a year total, has a daughter in community college, saved for years to pay for it, made sacrifices, worked nights, gave up everything to give her daughter opportunities. He looked at AOC. You want Lisa to pay your debt too, after she already paid her daughter's, after she sacrificed everything. His voice went hard. This is socialism in practice, isn't it? I deserve free things because I say so. Other people should pay for my choices. Personal responsibility is for other people, not for me. He pulled out more documents. You want free health care, free college, free housing, guaranteed income, free everything. And when people ask who pays for it, you say the rich. But you are rich. Top 6%. And you won't even pay your own bills. He started reading from her policy proposals. Medicare for all estimated cost $30 trillion over 10 years. Who pays? Taxpayers. Green New Deal estimated cost $93 trillion over 10 years. Who pays? Taxpayers. Universal basic income, housing guarantee, job guarantee, all on the taxpayer dime. He looked up. But when it comes to your bills, your debts, your responsibilities, you want someone else to pay. You won't even pay your own $17,000. but you want to add trillions to the national debt for your programs. His voice went softer, more dangerous. Here is what really gets me about this. You could have paid your student loans easily, but instead of being responsible, instead of paying your debts like millions of Americans do every month, you chose luxury. He pulled out the apartment brochure again. You chose the golf simulator, the infinity pool, the spa services, the Steinway piano, the Tesla, the Met Gala. You chose luxury over responsibility. He set it down. And now you want truck drivers and waitresses and construction workers to pay for your choices while you enjoy amenities they can't even imagine. Pause. Let it settle. That is not equality, Congresswoman. That is not democratic socialism. That is entitlement. That is aristocratic privilege with a progressive veneer. He leaned back. You are not Robin Hood, taking from the rich to give to the poor. You are the rich, taking from the poor while pretending to be poor. AOC had her head in her hands now, shoulders shaking. One more thing, Shapiro said. Then we are done with you. Shapiro pulled out the last section of his folder, thinner than the others but somehow more devastating. One last thing, he said, his voice almost gentle now, because this might be the most revealing of all. You claim to be a democratic socialist, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. It is your whole brand, your entire political identity. You wear it proudly. He pulled out a press release dated July 12, 2024, from the national leadership of the Democratic Socialists of America. Let me read the key part, he said, adjusting his glasses. The National Political Committee has voted to withdraw the conditional endorsement of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. While we appreciate her service, a national DSA endorsement comes with serious commitments to our collective socialist project that have not been met. End quote. He looked up. Let that sink in. The DSA, your organization, the socialists, they unendorsed you. AOC's head shot up, claiming that is not the full context. The context, Shapiro interrupted, is that you are not socialist enough for the socialists. You are not radical enough for the radicals. Even the far left thinks you are a fraud. He pulled out more details explaining they unendorsed her because she voted for a House resolution on anti-Semitism, because she participated in a panel discussion about anti-Semitism, because she wasn't extreme enough on Israel and Palestine. He spread the documents. Now, I disagree with the DSA on almost everything. Their politics are dangerous, their economics are nonsense, their foreign policy is insane. But you know what? At least they are consistent. They actually believe what they say. They actually live according to their principles. He looked at AOC. You just use socialism as an aesthetic, as a brand. Socialism for the Instagram feed, capitalism for the lifestyle. His voice went sharp. Real socialists sacrifice. They live modestly. They give their money to causes. They organize. They build mutual aid networks. They actually try to live their values. He gestured at her. You live in luxury. Drive expensive cars, accept gifts from the wealthy, attend exclusive parties, shop at overpriced stores. You are a socialist. The way I am an astronaut. It is a costume you wear for photo ops. He pulled out comparison charts. Let us compare you to some actual socialists. Eugene Debs lived modestly, gave away most of his money, went to prison for his beliefs. Real commitment, real sacrifice. Another example, Kshama Sawant, Seattle City Council, actual socialist, takes a salary, but donates most of it to socialist causes. Lives in a normal house. Real consistency. He looked at AOC. You keep every penny. You live better than 95% of Americans. The only thing socialist about you is your rhetoric." His voice went cold. "And even the DSA figured it out. Even they realized you are just a performer, a grifter using their movement for personal gain." He read more from the unendorsement statement. "We must demand more from leaders in our movement. Electoral politics alone cannot build the working-class power we need. They are saying you are all talk, all performance, no substance." He set it down. "Your own people abandoned you. The conservatives know you are a hypocrite. The moderates know you cost them elections. The far left knows you are a fraud. Who exactly do you represent anymore besides yourself?" Pause. Heavy pause. "Here is what you are, Congresswoman. You are the perfect embodiment of modern progressive politics. All performance, no substance. All rhetoric, no results. All image, no integrity." He started counting on his fingers. "You haven't passed any major legislation. You haven't improved your district. You haven't helped your own grandmother. You have killed thousands of jobs. You have violated ethics rules. You have lived in hypocrisy while preaching about inequality." His voice rose. "But you have built a brand. You have got 3 million Instagram followers. You have got merchandise. You have got speaking fees. You have monetized victimhood. You have turned progressive politics into a profitable personal business." He leaned forward one last time. "You are not a congresswoman, Alexandria. You are an influencer with a government salary. You are a celebrity playing politician, and the American people are paying for it." He closed his folder. "Final. Done. You came here tonight to expose my hypocrisy, to show everyone who I really am. Well, mission accomplished, just not the way you planned." He sat back. "Everyone now knows exactly who you are. A fraud, a hypocrite, a performer. Someone who uses socialism to get elected while living like a capitalist. Someone who claims to fight for workers while destroying their jobs. Someone who preaches about sacrifice while accepting luxury from the wealthy." His final words came quiet and devastating. "You are everything wrong with American politics, and everyone can finally see it." Silence, complete silence, no one moving, no one speaking. AOC sat motionless, tears streaming down her face, completely destroyed. Jake Tapper tried to say something, but stopped. What was there to say? The debate was over. Shapiro had won. The CNN control room was in chaos within minutes. Producers arguing, executives on phones. The footage was already leaking online. Clips spreading across every platform, with the hashtag Socialist Hypocrite trending worldwide in under an hour. AOC left the stage without speaking to anyone, her staffers forming a protective circle as they rushed her to the car and drove away. But you can't outrun the internet. By midnight, the full debate had 10 million views on YouTube, 20 million by morning. Clips were everywhere, commentary from every angle. Even mainstream media couldn't ignore it. CNN tried to spin it, called it aggressive questioning, suggested Shapiro was too harsh, but the facts were the facts. The documents were real, the ethics report existed, the grandmother's house was documented, the Amazon jobs were killed. You can't spin math. Within 48 hours, Maria Santos was everywhere. The woman who lost her shot at the Amazon project manager job. She did interviews on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, even NPR. "I watched that debate," she said on Anderson Cooper, her voice steady and angry. "And I saw someone who destroyed my chance at a better life get exposed for exactly what she is, a hypocrite." Cooper tried to defend AOC, but Maria cut him off. "She lives in luxury I will never see. She drives a car I could never afford. She goes to parties that cost more than I make in a year. And she killed 25,000 jobs in our community, including mine." She looked directly at the camera, I started a petition to recall her. We have 120,000 signatures now from our district, the people she claims to represent. We are done being represented by someone who doesn't represent us. The petition went viral. 120,000 became 200,000 in a week. The pressure mounted. Then, James Chen published his op-ed in the New York Post, titled, "AOC Destroyed My Business and My Community." It was brutal, personal, devastating. He detailed the loan he took out, the staff he hired, the hope he felt, then the crushing disappointment when AOC killed the Amazon deal, the layoffs, the near bankruptcy, the depression. She didn't destroy Amazon, he wrote. She destroyed us, the small business owners who would have benefited, the workers who would have had jobs, the families who would have had opportunity. And she did it from her luxury apartment, driving her luxury car, living a life we can only dream about. The op-ed got 12 million views in 3 days. Democratic leadership was in full panic mode. AOC had been a problem for years, too radical, costing them elections, embarrassing the party. But she had the squad, she had the base. She was untouchable. Until now. Now she had self-destructed on national television. Now the receipts were public. Now even her own constituents wanted her gone. Hakeem Jeffries called her, "We know," because it leaked. He was polite, but firm, telling her she had become a liability and needed to consider what was best for the party. Nancy Pelosi was less polite, telling her she had embarrassed them and to fix this or they would primary her. But how do you fix the truth? Within 2 weeks, 3 challengers had filed to primary her. A moderate Democrat promising time for real results, an actual socialist who lived modestly prioritizing authenticity over performance, and a Republican promising jobs, not rhetoric. Her fundraising collapsed. Major donors pulled out. The ones who had loved her brand saw the brand was fake. Progressive PACs quietly redirected money. The squad started distancing themselves. Even Ilhan Omar stopped returning calls. 6 weeks after the debate, AOC held a press conference and announced she wouldn't seek re-election to spend more time with family and explore new opportunities. Translation: she was done, politically radioactive, destroyed. The Democratic Party establishment breathed a collective sigh of relief. One less problem, one less embarrassment, one less radical, making them all look bad. Maria Santos was interviewed again and asked how she felt about AOC's resignation. "Good," she said, "but it doesn't bring back the 25,000 jobs she killed. It doesn't fix my grandmother's house for her. It doesn't undo the damage she did to our community." Pause. But at least she can't do more damage from Congress? That is something. James Chen reopened his restaurant, smaller and more modest. He couldn't afford the expansion anymore, but he survived. "The Amazon jobs would have saved my business," he told reporters. "Now I am just trying to survive." That is AOC's legacy in Queens. Survival instead of opportunity. The media tried to move on, tried to forget, but the debate clips kept circulating. YouTube algorithm gold. Millions of views, thousands of reactions, hundreds of commentary videos. Ben Shapiro destroys AOC became a genre, a meme, a cultural moment. But more importantly, it became a lesson about hypocrisy, about authenticity, about the difference between performance and principle. Politicians took note. The ones who preached sacrifice while living in luxury got quieter. The ones who claimed to fight for workers while killing their jobs became more careful. The ones who used progressive rhetoric to build personal brands started worrying, because if it could happen to AOC, the queen of progressive social media, the darling of the left, the untouchable squad member, it could happen to anyone. The facts don't care about your Instagram following. Mathematics doesn't care about your victim narrative. Reality doesn't care about your brand. And eventually, the people you claim to represent figure out you don't actually represent them. AOC learned that lesson the hard way on national television in front of millions. She had come to destroy Ben Shapiro. She had destroyed herself instead. 3 months later, she announced a deal with Netflix for a documentary series about progressive politics in America. The irony was lost on no one. The socialist who attacked capitalism signing a multi-million-dollar deal with a streaming giant. Even her most loyal followers had to laugh. Some things never change, but some things do. The Democratic Party got more moderate after AOC. The Squad lost power. The Twitter activists lost influence. Real results started mattering more than rhetoric. And in Queens, Maria Santos was running for city council. Her platform, jobs, results, no more performers. Early polls looked good. Sometimes justice takes time. Sometimes the arc bends slowly. But eventually, the truth comes out. Eventually, the hypocrites get exposed. Eventually, the fraud gets called. Ben Shapiro had just made it happen faster. Stories like this matter because politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez count on you not paying attention. They count on you being dazzled by rhetoric and not examining records. They count on you accepting their brand instead of demanding results. If this opened your eyes to how modern progressive politics actually works, hit that like button, share this with everyone who needs to hear it. Let people know what happened when someone finally demanded accountability. Drop a comment on which other politicians need this treatment, because Washington is full of hypocrites pretending to fight for you while fighting only for themselves. Subscribe if you want to see more fraud exposed, more hypocrisy revealed, more politicians held accountable, real facts, real evidence, real consequences, because the truth matters, and someone needs to tell it. See you in the next one.